Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And guess what? I have both of the meditation books with me today. So I thought that we would, oh, what is going on with this page? It's the very last meditation of the year. I didn't dog ear it, but I bent the page. So anyway, I thought that we would start this week off with some meditations and just go into this week with seeing what the universe has to say to us. Now, I didn't do videos over here, I think the last 2 days. So I like to read the meditation for the day because I feel like that's what the universe is maybe speaking to us about for today, but I am going to reference back to the last 2 days just to see. This is from the language of letting go what the last two meditations are because they might be better than the one for today. Today is October 13th. Okay, today's meditation is substance over form. I don't even know what that means, really. October 12th, being gentle with ourselves during times of grief. That one might be a good one. And then the 11th was recovery. Let me look in the Journey to the Heart and see what this meditation says for us. Oh, I pulled it right open to October 12th. Trust yourself to know what's right. Honor your connection to the body. October 13th, you are on time. You know what? I think that I haven't talked about, well, I've talked about grief in reference to other meditations, but I haven't specifically talked about grief over here. I want to read this one first, and then maybe we'll read today, substance over form. But the first one being from yesterday, being gentle with ourselves during times of grief. The process of adapting to change and loss takes energy. Now, when I talk about this, I want to make this very, very clear. When I talk about grief, I'm not just talking about grief, and I do think it's one of the paramount emotions or processes of grief, the loss of somebody in our life. But I'm also talking about grief as a process of change, as far as like losing a job, losing a relationship, moving, losing a pet, I think is really one of the pieces of grieving that we don't talk much about. There are all kinds of ways that we grieve that aren't necessarily just in death. We grieve the loss and the change of all different kinds of things, even from season to season. And I don't just mean like the leaves changing and things like that. I mean, emotionally, like, when we talk about like seasonal affect disorder and things like that, like I think we physically and emotionally feel ourselves going through changes as we get older. I've definitely felt that as I've gotten older, like the changes of life and things like that. So when I'm talking about grief, I'm talking about it, I don't know specifically what this meditation says, so I may be talking about it specifically to people that I've lost, but the overall, I want to talk about grief as far as any loss that you might relate to. I'm trying to make the meditation a little bit more universal to everybody. The process of adapting to change and loss takes energy. Grief is draining, sometimes exhausting. Some people need to cocoon for transformation, in Pat Carnes' words, while going through grief. We may feel more tired than usual. Our ability to function well in other areas of our life may be reduced. Temporarily, we may want to hide out in the safety of our bedroom. Grief is heavy. It can wear us down. It's okay to be gentle with ourselves when we're going through change and grief. Yes, we want to maintain the disciplines of recovery, but we can be compassionate with ourselves. We do not have to expect more from ourselves than we can deliver during this time. We do not even have to expect as much from ourselves as we would normally and reasonably expect. We may need more rest, more sleep, more comfort. We may be more needy and have less to give. It is okay to accept ourselves and our changed needs during times of grief, stress, and change. It is okay to allow ourselves to cocoon during times of transformation. We can surrender to the process and trust that a new, exciting energy is being created within us. Before long, we will take wings and fly. God, help me accept my changed needs during times of grief, change, and loss. I think this is a fantastic meditation. And I'm going to talk a little bit about both because I am going to reference back to my mom's passing because I think I learned a very, very valuable lesson during that time. And I've talked a lot about it on here. My mom's passing wasn't the first person that I had lost in my life, but I think on that kind of profound level, it was the first person that I had really been that close to in my life where I felt it that deeply, and it just completely shocked my system. I didn't know how to kind of like move through it. People would say move on. I don't love that term. I didn't really know how to do it, and nobody was giving me the language to speak or the ways to do it. I had no idea. And I think that's one of the things that's sad about grieving often is that we sometimes don't want to overstep with people. So we'll just say things like, oh, my deepest sympathy, or I'm so sorry, because we don't have the words. We don't have the language. We don't teach people in this world how to talk about death, how to talk about change, how to talk about passing. So we're just like, I'm there for you if you need me. But in that time when people would say that to me, I didn't have the language or the words to reach out to people and say, I need you. Well, what can I do for you? I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't know what I needed. And I really had to and it's nobody's fault. I just had to figure it out on my own, like I think a lot of people do. I remember at that time, like, music was such a healer to me. And especially listening to music that, like, my mom really liked. And I can remember, like, songs that I'd be, like, listening, to the radio or whatever, and a song of my mom that my mom liked, like a Bob Dylan song or a Judy Collins song would come on or something like that. And I would just take, I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and just feel my feelings. And it was something that I learned, was just to feel my feelings, to allow myself to sit and feel my feelings. And then at first, there was a numbness that came along with it. Like, I just felt very, very numb for a very long time. And then after that, I would say, 6 months to a year later, when I started feeling my feelings again a little bit, I would allow myself, because I couldn't just stop my day. I couldn't, I do think it's important to take care of yourself. And early on, if you need to cocoon and I should just say about myself, I thought it was important for me. I mean, I can remember there were days I just didn't want to get out of bed. And physically didn't feel like I could get out of bed. I just was so sad and just overwhelmed with not even knowing how I felt. It was surreal. It's just such a surreal feeling. And I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say to people. And there were days that I didn't want to get out of bed. And there were days that I didn't get out of bed. And then there were days that taking a shower and putting on some clean clothes was the best that I could do. And I think to a lot of people out there today, that's the best that you can do. Give yourself some grace for that. But then there was a point where I knew that I had a friend of mine that said she had lost her son, and I had asked her, people keep on telling me to move on, and she said, no, we don't ever move on. She said, but we move through the pain, and we'll always carry the memories of them to the other side. She said, but we don't move on. Moving on and just forgetting it, no, because I think that's a simple concept. She's like, we move through the pain. And that made a lot of sense to me, because I could almost kind of visualize like a tunnel that I had to go through, and I had to feel these feelings, and I had to feel these emotions. But I didn't have to feel them all at the same time, and I knew that. And so I would give myself moments. I would allow myself moments. Like when I got sad, I'd be like, okay, I'm not talking in the first week. That's too raw and vulnerable. First month, first 6 months. It's how you dictate it. It's on your time level. For me, I'd say it was about 6 months to a year, maybe more closer to a year, when I can remember I just get really sad, and I just felt like I almost can't function today. And I'd be like, okay, I'm going to allow myself a half an hour to just sit here and really feel the pain and just really be upset about this. And then at a half an hour, I'm going to go on. It's kind of what I did in early recovery, to be honest with you, with my cravings. I would be like, if I can just make it to 4:15, at 4:15 I can use. And I would just call all these people in recovery until I got a hold of somebody. And then at 4:15 would come and I'd say, if I could just make it to 5 o'clock. It was kind of what I did the same thing with that with grief. And I was like, okay, if I just give myself a half an hour to just feel sorry for myself, feel the pain, cry. And during those moments, I can remember I would listen to a lot of sad music, a lot of music that reminded me of my mom. I would watch movies that reminded me of my mom. Movies back in the day, I would watch The Way We Were, The Color Purple, My Dog Skip, and I would just bawl my eyes out watching these movies, the saddest parts of those movies, Out of Africa, when Robert Redford dies in the movie, I can remember just, watching that part and just thinking of my mom, and she loved that movie, and just bawling my eyes out. And what that really taught me was that I can give myself times and space when I need to feel things, but I can also function when I need to as well. But also there's going to be days that catch me off guard that I'm not expecting. And on those days, those are the days that I need to just cocoon. But if I allow myself to start cocooning every single day, then I'm going to get myself trapped into this cocoon that I cannot get out of. And there was a point where I was really scared of that, because for a long time I was numb. Then when I started feeling my feelings, I was so overwhelmed with them, I didn't really know what to do with those feelings. And so I was like, if I get trapped in this, I'm never going to get out of it. And so I had to allow myself to feel those moments in time, allow myself a half an hour or an hour, I can remember putting together this CD of pictures. I think the funeral home helped us, of pictures of my mom, and it was played to all of her favorite music. And I can remember watching that CD first 2 years that my mom had passed away and just like bawling my eyes out. And it was like this connection that I felt like I had to my mom. And I needed those moments. But I didn't want to do that 24 hours a day. And I knew it wasn't healthy for me. And you know, I think a lot of times we say like, well, they wouldn't want us to do that. And I think, how do we know what they would want for us? But I had some of those conversations with my mom. Like, you know, and I had conversations with my dad after my mom passed away. And my dad would say to me, like, you knew your mom. She would want you to live she tried to do everything to give you the best life that you possibly could have. She would want you to live this life. And so I knew at some point, like, it was kind of a betrayal to my mother not to live my life, you know, and to not live the best life that she had given me. I knew that that was kind of a betrayal. And so that was why I was like, I have to push through this. I think it was easier to stay stuck than it was to do the work and push through it. Today, in my life, I know the same things. And so things that I'm grieving or difficult, hard times for me today, when I'm feeling very stuck, or I'm feeling like I just want to cocoon, or I feel like I don't want to get out of bed today, I'm so sad, or I'm just really stuck. Some days I allow myself to do that. But eventually I go, okay, you know, I mean, it's like, I think also having dogs now has really helped. The last year has been really difficult. And having dogs, it's like, well, the dogs have to go outside. You got to feed the dogs. You know, you got to do this, you got to do that. And so it's kind of pushed me on days that I'm really struggling. Like, okay, you got to get up. You got to do these things. You know, they're relying on you. And that's really, really helped me a lot while also still allowing me to take time for my grief. Losing our dog, Boo Radley, last year was so hard for me because, as my therapist said, it wasn't just losing Boo, it was combined grief over all the past losses that I had had. The last year has not been easy for me at all. And there's been days that I'm like, I'm not doing anything today, you know? And then there's been days where I'm like, I don't want to just waste a day. But I can allow myself an hour to really feel my feelings. And then after that hour, I deserve an hour. And if I want to, you know, do something and then give myself another hour and just pace it throughout the day. Some days I have to do it like that. Some days it's like the early days of craving for me. That grieving is like that. I have to pace myself. Take a half an hour here, take a half an hour there. You know, there are other days where I take a half an hour, then I'm good to go for the rest of the day. There's other days where at 3 o'clock, I'm like, okay, we're done for the day. We're just going to relax for the rest of the day and feel our emotions and feel our feelings, you know? And it's hard, but I think the pacing of grief is something that we each have to figure out on our own. And we don't have a language to talk about it. No matter how many books we read, no matter how many movies we watch, no matter how many experiences you hear, no matter how many meditations you read, or how many people you talk to about it, when it happens to you, your experience will be completely different because of your relationship with that person, your feelings, your emotions. We're all completely different people. So there's no blueprint for it. So the way to grieve is exactly how you need to grieve for as long as you need to grieve. For me, there was a time when I had to come and I had to say, I don't want to be stuck anymore. I just don't. I want to continue to feel my feelings authentically, but I also want to live a life. And that was where I had to figure out how I was going to do all that. Today, I still, you know, like, I mean, it's been a long time since my mom's passed away. But with like Boo, there are days that still are like so hard for me. And I'm like, okay, look, I'm going to look at some pictures. I'm going to look at some videos. I'm going to allow myself to cry for a little bit, get sad, you know. And I don't even put a time limit on it anymore today. I just feel it till I'm done feeling it for the moment. And then I've moved through it and I keep on, and I talk about it with people too. I think that's one of the things that's helped me the most is talking to people. I'm talking to you guys about it right now, but I talk to people about it. I talk to my friends. My friends and I have talked about losing parents, losing friends. I mean, we talk about all kinds of things, losing pets, and talking to people and normalizing it, I think has really, really helped me a lot. And no, none of us share a common language with it, and none of us have the same experiences, but I think just sharing that pain is really, really helpful. So anyway, let me know what you think about, I'm not going to read the other one, I'll save that for another day. Let me know what you think about all that in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.